If you've been tuning into the channel, you know that we've been quite bearish on Bitcoin for the entirety of the bear market, but more recently, over the past few weeks, we flipped bullish. The reason was simple. It looked like we were going to get a bounce from around that $58,000 to $57,000 zone, seeing as it provided a high confluence liquidity zone, on top of the fact that it looks like we're playing out that 2018 simulation that we've talked about on the channel time and time again. I'll give you a quick update on that as well in today's video. Guys, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. We're getting very, very close to 20,000 subscribers. So let's try and hit that milestone. Thank you everyone for your support. Look, Bitcoin is currently getting that bounce and we're approaching my next take profit zone on my Bitcoin long. If you've been tuning into the channel, you know that I've gone long on Bitcoin at around $58,100. This was of course shared in my community as soon as I took my trade. But I think that this could provide some potential resistance, at least in the more immediate short term. Let's discuss that. Right now, you'll notice that we have a pretty big range for Bitcoin starting out at the beginning of the year. And I want to take you through the volume profile, why $65,000 to $65,500 could pose as resistance for Bitcoin, at least temporarily, as we try to play out this summer relief rally. So, number one, we have the big range that we've been in since the beginning of the year, literally since the middle of January. We have the value area low of this range. What you're seeing here is the volume profile. And so today we're getting a little bit of a reaction right at that zone, at the value area low of this entire range, right at around $64,000. However, if you take a look at this closer range starting at the beginning of June, you'll notice that from the top to where we are today, this level that we're currently getting a reaction from is also the value area high of the current range that we're in. And so it's nice to take a look at the higher time frames and the lower time frames, the bigger ranges and the smaller ranges, but it really is a confluence zone when you get this kind of lineup on the charts. My expectation is that if Bitcoin is to go and make it up to around this higher wick at around $65,500, it should struggle a little bit. Perhaps we get a little bit of an SFP if we can manage to tap into that zone. And my next take profit on my Bitcoin long, as we've just discussed, is at around $65,000. Guys, all my profit target zones are shared within my community. As soon as I take a trade, as soon as I adjust any positions, if you want to join that community, please remember you have the first link in the description down below. If you DM me the keyword CBM on Telegram after clicking this link, you'll get access to my group where I share all of my own personal trades, the overall market analysis that I use to guide me through the bear market and into the next bull market. Right now, keep your eyes on that 65K zone. If we can make it up there, shaving some profits from my long, and I would be expecting temporary resistance. Now, something else that I discussed within my live streams and in my video updates is that I'd actually be willing to add to my existing Bitcoin long if and only if we would tap into this $60,000 support level. The reason why that level is important for Bitcoin to hold is simply because when we take the volume profile of this range, as we just did, it also coincides with the value area low of this range on top of a massive liquidity cluster to the downside to be grabbed if we are to make it there. On the higher time frames, liquidity is relatively even, which to me suggests that the summer relief rally scenario can actually continue for Bitcoin, because usually you want to see that there are significantly more longs in the market on a bear market relief rally before dropping lower. But because on the higher time frames it is relatively even, I still think that we can push up, even if we experience a little bit of a rejection at around that $65,000 to $65,000 level. Right now, Bitcoin is just chopping around, and this chop is typically what we get with these bear market relief rallies. I actually gave an update in my community yesterday talking about how relief rallies in bear markets are not that visually appealing. And what I mean by this is we don't actually get that massive explosive move to the upside which can kick off a bull market, but rather it is very much choppy price action to the upside where the entire upside move is doubted, and then finally, once we've rallied 20, 30% from whatever low is materialized, that's when people get overly bullish at higher time frame resistance like this 200-day moving average, which we'll talk about as well, because that's actually my grand target for my Bitcoin long. What I mean by this, again, is it's where I would basically close most of my existing Bitcoin long position and add to my existing swing shorts in this market. And on that note, guys, a lot of you have been asking me, man, why don't you just close your shorts if you're bullish on Bitcoin? Why would I if I think that the extent of this relief rally will not make it to my average entry price on my Bitcoin shorts? I want to add to this position, and that's how I've been playing it in my community over the entire bear market. Every single relief rally that we've been getting, I've been adding to my shorts. I'm already noticing that every time we create new lows, less and less people are tuning into the crypto space. I'm telling you right now, do not leave. If you're tuning into my content, if you're in my community, you don't have to watch every single video, you don't have to pay attention to every single live stream, but keep a little pulse on the market, because I do think that we will create some form of bear market low within the coming months after this relief rally. So my game plan here is still the same. We can continue to get a little bit more upside, even if there are some ugly, choppy pullbacks along the way, and then we will likely reject, creating a new low. That's currently what I'm gunning for. Although, since $100,000, we've been calling for a sub 60K Bitcoin, and a lot of my community members have already started dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin below $60,000. This is something that I've been so vocal about, and I'm glad that it happened. But I ultimately think that we can go lower, even if Bitcoin is to make it as high as $74,000, which would put us right at the top of what I believe would be the relief rally that we're seeing right now. The reason I say this is because if we go back to the prior bear market relief rallies, a lot of times, first and foremost in 2022, we have a dump into the summer, and then we get that 40% move from the low, and then we end up moving lower afterwards. However, in 2018, which is what we've compared this price action to time and time again, basically a 10x of the price action that we saw in 2018, we managed to sweep the low at the beginning of the year. The first weekly candle after this red one was green. The second one was green. The next one was red with a pretty big drop to the downside, and then an explosive move to the upside, topping out right at that 200-day moving average. If this is to play out perfectly again, it would be absolutely insane, because it would confirm that we must live in a simulation. Look at this. $5,900, $5,700 once we swept that low at the beginning of the year, going to today's price action, which we've already compared to multiple times. Where did we drop to? $59,000, $57,000 for the next low, and now we're getting those two green weekly candles so far, suggesting that if it's the perfect simulation, maybe next week, assuming our weekly candle can close like this for Bitcoin, would be red, and then we have another squeeze up towards the zones that we highlighted. My next take profit, if Bitcoin is to surpass $65,000, is $69,000 into the anchored VWAP from the previous low, into that bull market support band, which typically acts as resistance in a bear market, and of course, that big target of $74,000. Keep in mind, we are below the moving averages, and therefore, the longer we stay below, the lower these moving averages go. So this target may be adjusting. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin's monthly returns, we know that July is historically bullish for Bitcoin. So let's see if this can continue. Like I said, I think that even if this relief rally is to continue, it's going to be ugly, it's going to be choppy to the upside. We're not going to get an explosive move to the upside. And if we do, well, that's more than welcomed. But I think that we would ultimately top out around the zones that we just discussed. The next thing I want to bring to your attention, and it's basically just why I think we will be making a new low, in regards to the drawdowns from all-time high to bear market lows, we have never in the history of Bitcoin dropped only 50%, and that was the bear market bottom. Granted, we do see these diminishing drawdowns, which we've discussed on the channel at length, but I still think that we will probably bottom out somewhere between 60 to 70% from the all-time high, which could put Bitcoin starting at that 50K zone down to maybe even lower. But of course, let's see how the price action develops. I am open to anything, and honestly, it's been a pleasure trading this market in the bear market so far. I'm telling you, the tides will turn relatively soon, but not quite yet. One more relief rally, one more dump in my opinion, choppy price action, and then we can prepare ourselves for the next bull market. That is currently my framework for operating in this market. We've been shorting all the relief rallies within the community. And by the way, guys, if you want to join my community, you know where to find me. Just DM me the keyword CBM on Telegram to join that group. So I share all of my own personal trades and my overall market analysis. And the only requirement to join is that you're trading on any of these exchanges down below. You trade with your own money. So it's totally up to you which one you'd like to join, and then you can go ahead and join my community. Speaking of which, please remember that nothing that I discuss on the channel should be construed as financial advice. I know we've gotten a lot of calls right over the course of the bear market. Of course, I had some losses, but for the most part, we've made hundreds of thousands of dollars in this market, shorting the relief rallies, taking a couple of scalp longs here and there, and ultimately it's been fantastic. But please remember that at the end of the day, I am just a guy on the internet sharing his thoughts on the market. I am not perfect. I will make mistakes, and you have to make sure that you're doing your own analysis as well. Speaking of your own analysis, we actually are looking for some new creators to potentially join the team. So if you do have a passion for crypto and you'd like to join, make sure to click this link down below. It's the form in the description down below. If you're interested in making crypto content and you'd like to also consider being a YouTuber, I'd highly recommend it. Now, next thing I wanted to bring to your attention before we wrap up this video, two things actually. The Bitcoin ETF inflows, we saw 3 days of consecutive inflows, but more recently about 100 million worth of outflows. So this obviously isn't super great for the price action of Bitcoin. Something else that we can consider, although the Coinbase Bitcoin Premium Index is in red, it's very obvious, we are slowly trending up, meaning that the selling pressure is diminishing. So if we can get a little bit of green here, some spikes in green, that would bode over well for Bitcoin's potential continued relief rally. Although, guys, it's not necessary, because if we zoom out here and we look at Bitcoin's last major relief rally, actually we'll go on the 1 day to really zoom out and get a bigger picture. We did manage to get some green over the course of these bear market relief rallies, but you'll notice it is only just a little bit. So as long as the selling doesn't stay in deep red, the relief rally can actually continue. You can see here that when Bitcoin went all the way up to around $81,000, $82,000 when we had that Clarity Act pump, and I'll remind you, we also shorted Bitcoin at around $81,500 at the top of the previous relief rally, we got some green here. So let's see how this develops. If Bitcoin continues its trajectory and we do get that 2018 simulation, what I would look for is a green weekly candle to close out this week, which so far, so good. Then a potential red weekly candle next week. A lot of people will immediately start calling for lower. Maybe we'll get tons of aggressive shorts in the market, and then another pop to the upside like we saw in 2018. Now, I think that this zone will prove to be pivotal for Bitcoin on this relief rally. So even if we do drop lower, I have to say I am still leaning long, at least temporarily, and I'll keep you updated if that changes. As always, the quicker real-time updates are within my community, but otherwise, I do have my YouTube content. I will be providing a new video update on Sunday, and on Monday, Tuesday, we obviously have those live streams. The summer schedule is also down below if you'd like to know when I go live, when I post video updates. Fridays are to be determined. Sometimes I'll do a live stream, sometimes I'll do a video update, but I just thought I'd share that with you in case you didn't already know. We do have a schedule now. And that's basically all I wanted to cover in today's video. So I'm still gunning for higher for Bitcoin. My next take profit zone is at around $65,000. And if we are to hit these higher time frame zones above the 2021 all-time high at around $69,000, I would simply be looking to add to my existing massive Bitcoin swing short. All I'm trying to do here as a swing trader is play the market in both directions. As always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell. I hope